Hello everyone, Gilligan Kruger 0829 here, and I have changed sides and the lighting in my room, obviously, for the fourth and final day of my Transformers movie series marathon review. First off, my apologies for not uploading this video sooner. I've been in Orlando for the past few weeks where I saw this movie, and I had internet problems galore, as well as I had so many things to do down there I didn't really get time to filming. But that being aside, let's start out, just like my other series reviews, by looking at the predecessors that have led into Transformers 3. So I actually started off my series review with Transformers the movie from 1986. I said I liked the action, animation, and even said it improved some of the things that the cartoon Generation 1, that started in 1984, of course, did so well. Unfortunately, I wasn't really too fond of some of the more mature themes, like the cursing and some of the characters dying. That really took me by surprise, but I still enjoyed the movie and gave it 3.5 stars, so I thought it was a good way to start. Day 2, we looked at Transformers, the first live-action movie by explosion maestro Michael Bay. And believe it or not, I've actually come on to call this one of my favorite movies. I thought it delivered on most every single thing I would have wanted a Transformers movie to do. The action was cool, the CGI was cool, the story, while a little bit silly at times, was still pretty interesting. I just loved this movie, and I have been into Michael Bay movies ever since. Now, although I gave 3 stars to Transformers Revenge of the Fallen from 2009, I was largely unimpressed by its hard to keep up with, or hard to believe, better so, story, misused characters, and obnoxious abundance of sex humor. So, it was the weakest point of my Transformers series review, but I still enjoy the movie overall. But now it's the one that you've all been waiting for. Transformers Dark of the Moon. How does it stand up next to the others, and as a movie, just on its own? Well, call Houston, because we've got a lot to talk about. This is Transformers Dark of the Moon. So this one starts out when we find that the space race of the 1960s was actually caused by NASA noticing an Autobot spaceship crashing into the Ark in 1961. They explored the Ark during the Apollo 11 lunar landing, and everyone's been silent about it ever since. So we then cut to the present, where we once again see Sam Witwicky, who has now living with his new girlfriend, Carly Spencer, played by newcomer Rosie Huntington-Whiteley. He's looking for a job, and he's living with Carly because she actually has a job working for car artist / collector Dylan Gould, played by Patrick Dempsey, and she's the one paying the rent. But as all this is happening, the Transformers, or the Autobots, better, are still searching the globe. But during one mission in Chernobyl, they find what appears to be a piece of an Autobot spacecraft, most likely the Ark. And as such, Optimus takes a team of Autobots up to the moon, where they find the Ark and its dead captain, Sentinel Prime. When they revive him using the Matrix of Leadership, he reveals that on board was a special technology that could have won the war for the Autobots, called a space bridge, which can transport troops, supplies, you name it, from one location to another. Unfortunately, the Decepticons are also aware of this, and even partially orchestrated the plot. And they also are after it. And the movie is a fight between the Autobots and the Decepticons over use of the space bridge, and the Decepticons preparing for their final invasion of planet Earth. Now, as much as I was hyped up for this movie, and as I've said before, this is the movie I've been anticipating more than any of this year, I did go into the theater with a little bit low expectations, thinking that it was very likely that this movie was going to suck. But after coming out of that Orlando movie theater at about 11:30 on Tuesday, the 28th, my feelings were anything but scorn. I loved almost everything about this movie. It was even better than I thought it would be. And I'm going to explain why. Let's start with the story. This one, as I said, goes into the space race, and I really like the idea of getting Transformers involved with that. I liked the idea when I first heard about it. I thought, oh, well, that makes a lot more sense. More sense, anyway, than Transformers being involved with the building of the pyramids. I'll try not to compare this to Revenge of the Fallen too much, but it'll just happen. But I just really like the idea of, it was actually the Transformers who caused the space race, sorry. And I like it how they first do the introduction with actual video footage from the 1960s with JFK and new footage that they filmed for this purpose alone, and it all plays out really well for me. Next up, let's talk about the characters. Now, again, one of the things I hit Revenge of the Fallen on was that it misused the characters. Like, the humans were given too much screen time, the robots weren't given enough. And here, at very least, I think they tried to give screen time to all of the robots. Because they kind of made the Decepticons a lot more interesting this time around. One issue I had with Revenge of the Fallen, and I'm sorry I keep bringing it up, but I never really found the Decepticons to be intimidating. Now granted, if I saw one in the street, I'd run like hell away from it, but I never got that sense of fear that occasionally I got from the first Transformers movie, but they fixed it in this one. Like, we had some really cool and very creepy Decepticons. Like, I really liked Megatron's look in this movie. That made him look creepy. I liked Starscream, obviously. He's always my favorite. Soundwave has changed forms a little bit in this one. But the two ones that I think are really creepy and really give us an atmosphere of suspense are mainly Laserbeak, who's actually probably my favorite Transformer in this movie. He's a Condor-like Decepticon who serves as an assassin, because in the original cartoon show, if you've seen that, he was mainly a spy. But here he actually goes around killing people who are involved with the space race. And the other one I really liked was Driller, the pet that Shockwave brought along. And it's like this gargantuan tapeworm / octopus thing that, even though it doesn't appear too often, when it does appear, you get this grand sense of visuals, and it's really kind of creepy in some points, because they build it up almost like, I'm kind of thinking of a combination between Jaws and Tremors, the way they do this. But again, I think the Autobots and the Decepticons are really drawn out, a lot more so anyway. And the human characters, I actually really like in this one too. The regular cast, we've still got Sam, we've got Simmons and the parents, but the new ones are what the most talk is about. Mainly Carly, played by Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, who, while I don't see her winning an Oscar anytime soon, I actually didn't think she was all too bad in this role for a first time anyway. I thought her character was much more likable than Michaela, because Michaela just kind of came off to me as a bitch, but Carly is actually a much more enjoyable character to watch and see. You care about her a lot more. She also gains points because she was a character from the original cartoon, and that gains points for me, just saying. Also, we've got Patrick Dempsey is playing himself here, but he's a surprising character. I really liked his involvement in this movie. I also did the same for John Malkovich, who is Sam Witwicky's first boss. He's kind of funny, actually very funny in some scenes. And we've got Frances McDormand as Naval Intelligence Director Charlotte Meering, who definitely factors in the what her character was supposed to be. You're definitely not going to like this chick, but as I said with... who was it? Oh, Galloway in the second movie. She's not nearly that bad, I assure you. I think the movie wanted us not to like her, so nothing too big on that problem. Let's see what else. The other things I liked are basically just a little bit of improvements on the things I praised in the last two movies. The CGI, it still looks cool, even when they brought in the new Transformers, especially since this is in 3D. If you're gonna see this, see it in 3D. I don't usually recommend seeing live action movies in 3D, but definitely if you're going to see it here, it's really cool. The action scenes and the fights are pretty epic. If you thought Optimus Prime kicked ass in the last movie, wait till you see this. But, you know, just so much of this worked. You know, even the humor didn't bother me so much. This one, they actually felt like they knew when was a good time to put it in, as opposed to, well, I won't bring it up a third or fourth time, whichever I'm on now. But it actually works here. Like, we do have some comic relief characters, like we have Wheelie and Brains, who are two small robots who live with Sam and Carly, who ironically are voiced by the same actors who did Skids and Mudflap, Tom Kenny and Reno Wilson. But I actually kind of like them in this movie, because they feel like the annoying roommate personality, and they're not in this for too long. So Sam's parents are back in this. They're not in the movie all too much, at least not long enough for them to do something maniacally stupid. And everything just really balances out for me, like from the action to the characters to the story. This is the Transformers movie I wanted 4 years ago and have been wanting most of my life, and I really think it went through well. I thank Michael Bay for this. Now, there are some problems to this movie, small ones, but they are there. The big problem was the story, which I had a little bit of trouble understanding the first time through. They had this entire thing about assassinating the people who knew about the whole Apollo 11 being involved with the Ark. That's what I'm thinking. And that's where Laserbeak plays in, who, those are some of the creepiest scenes in the movie. But there are some points where I'm wondering, what's that? I don't get it. Now granted, I give it credit because it's Transformers. You never go into a Transformers film wanting a extremely intelligent story, because you're just not going to get it. Let's face it, it's giant transforming robots kicking the shit out of each other. You're not going to get an in-depth, clever, Oscar-winning screenplay story. But just a small thing. One little issue I did have about this movie, and this is just a pet peeve, is I commented that in the first two movies, Michael Bay kind of does the whole character 360 shot a little bit too much. If you want an example of what I mean by that, I'll revert you to this video right now. Would you find my reviews any more interesting if I did them like this? No, you wouldn't. I wouldn't either. Now, in this movie, however, he does something different. For some reason, it doesn't happen very often, but it's only in like 2 or 3 scenes. They fade to black. Again, like you've got a scene and then it's just, I don't understand why they would have done this. But, I don't know. If this happened all throughout the movie, this would have bothered me. Now, first, I thought this was kind of like making the action sequences authentic, but there's even one part with Simmons that he's just suiting up to talk with Sam about the whole plot where it's doing this, and I don't know why they did that. I guess small thing though. Alright. Okay, those are my problems. I'm getting them out of the side. So, my final verdict. The most anticipated movie of the year for me. What did I think of this? I absolutely adored this movie. More so than I have with any of the Transformers movies. That's right. I think this is my favorite by far. They were all advertising Shia LaBeouf, Tyrese Gibson, Michael Bay. They were all saying this was going to be the best of the three, and now I'm convinced. I was not dissatisfied. I thought the action, the story, again though, while it was a bit silly at times, the CGI, even the 3D, just blew me away. And just for that, Still, though, there's a little bit of that knack because of the story, which actually is something I forgot to mention this, but I'm gonna bring it up. It's a much darker movie this one around. This isn't dominated by silly humor without. That's reserved for the first act. But this one's a lot darker. Like, a lot of the robots die in this movie. I was shocked how many. And it kind of reminds me of the 80s movie, like, seeing them go. But, again, I'm sorry, I'm drifting off topic. The only issues I had were the small holes in the story, but everything else I thought was incredible. This is my favorite Transformers movie of the three. This is my... Okay, either this or X-Men has been my favorite movie of the year so far. I adored this movie, and if you've heard really nasty reviews by the critics, don't listen to them. They hate everything, okay? These movies are not for them. They were 30, 20 years old when the first Transformers show came on. These movies are for us, the fans, who want to see really kick-ass action movies. And for that, I think this delivers on most every level. And as such, I give Transformers Dark of the Moon 4.5 stars, barely under 5 stars out of 5. So that brings the end of my Transformers movie series marathon. You can find all my movie reviews on my YouTube channel. If you have a movie you'd like me to review, comment on this video or on my channel. Until next time, peace.